Hey guys, today we're going to talk about all the new weapons I used during my time with the Taken King, along with a minor mention of armor. I just want to say, first off, how much I enjoyed this session I had, mainly because there were no exotics involved. What a difference no exotics makes. Anyway, let's look at the primary weapons first, starting with the auto rifle, the Zaranea D, built by Heki, or Heck, or Hack, or Hacky, however it wants to be pronounced, and yes, I spent time learning how to pronounce an A with an umlaut on it before this video started. I should note that before we go further, a lot of the bonuses on these weapons are indeed random. This version of the auto rifle is different from another version I got to use with regards to the bonuses. The stats, however, are the same. This weapon was the Shin Gen style of auto rifle, moderately high rate of fire, lowish damage. Glass half full is a bonus we all know, but we have a new one here called Awareness, which is a new bonus that granted enhanced motion track resolution for a short time after a kill. Now what the hell does that mean? The enhanced motion tracker is basically the radar chopped up into more than 8 slices. I think it doubles to 16 slices, so you can get a more accurate representation of where your enemies are on the map, which kind of threw me off the first time that I got it, but I did enjoy the enhanced version of the radar. Did I enjoy it enough to want to use this bonus over something else? We'll see. We also had a different bonus on this weapon where you gain more handling and reload speed if you're the last player alive on your fire team, which is an interesting bonus to say the least. Otherwise, it handled pretty well, not too different from how a version of this weapon might handle right now. I really enjoyed using it because everyone in the games that I played were only using the new weapons because that's all we had access to. Using it and using it well were very possible because you weren't being instantly killed by everything in the game. It fell off outside of mid-range, but that is to be somewhat expected. Next up, we have the pulse rifle, the Suros PDX-45. My version came with full auto with some optional bonuses as well. Weapons in TTK seem to kind of vary the formula of weapon bonuses and upgrades. This pulse rifle performed basically exactly how high rate of fire, low damage pulse rifles perform in the game right now. There really wasn't anything different about this compared to in-game. Next we have the Cetus SR4 from Omelon. Third Eye is a pretty familiar bonus, but then we have new stuff, like this weapon becomes more accurate as your health gets lower, and kills with this weapon while bloodied have the chance to start recharge. Bloodied is basically where you're damaged below full health, not full shields. It's basically like a less good version of the Red Death bonus, but it can come on any weapon, I assume, which is good. It's a pretty decent bonus overall. It'll depend on the proc rate of it happening though. In PvE, it seems very defensive in nature. I do like offensive bonuses better, but it's still very nice to have as dead DPS does 0 DPS. The accuracy bonus I'm not crazy over personally because accuracy is not recoil and it's not stability. It might get you the edge in some close fights, but on something like a scout rifle, well, scout rifles are the masters of long range anyway and are super accurate most of the time. This scout rifle also handled much like this version of scout rifle handles in the game right now. It's the VOC Fang style of scout rifle, kinda in that sweet spot of damage and rate of fire. For some reason though, it felt like this one fired a little bit slower than normal, but it could have just been me not firing very quickly. Still, if I saw the scout rifle in-game, I would probably use it. It's pretty good with 19 in the magazine, and this is assuming that Vision of Confluence and Fang of Ute are phased out of the game. Finally, we come to the hand cannon, the Kuma Katak HC4 from Omelon. This looks very much like a sidearm, but it's not. It is definitely a hand cannon. It's the faster firing variety of hand cannon, not like a Fatebringer or a Red Hand or anything. We have some new bonuses on the hand cannon as well. Blood Mag gives a chance to refill the weapon's magazine when bloodied, and Underdog where you get a boost to range and handling when your health is low. These were lined up in a way where you had to pick one of the two, continuing to play into the varied style of how bonuses are applied to weapons. Now I struggled with this hand cannon, and I know other people at the event struggled with it to a degree as well. First off, 6 shots is pretty bad, that's a given, but the handling wasn't like any hand cannon I've ever used. It kicked really hard. Now in some clips it might be tough to tell with the Underdog bonus in effect, which was very noticeable now that I'm watching the footage again. But in normal circumstances, this thing really recoiled something fierce. And honestly, I hope some variation of this hand cannon recoil is the future. Up close and the close to mid-range, this thing can still tear through some people with ease, but at farther ranges, you're not going to be able to just fire this thing like you can with literally any hand cannon in the game right now. You're going to have to take things a little bit slower from farther distances, which is exactly the kind of nerf hand cannons need right now. As usual, this is not final. These weapons, armor, and basically everything are totally subject to change between now and the release of the Taken King. Let's move to the special weapons now, starting with the shotgun, the Jingu Goko D. The stats are pretty good minus the range, but my version had the range bonus on it, so that's fine. The new bonus on here is Surrounded by Wolves, where you gain bonus damage with this weapon when 3 or more enemies are in close proximity to you. I think this is a solid PvE bonus, PvP not as much, because generally if you're surrounded by 3 or more players, you're probably going to die in most cases. Danger Close is another version of this style of bonus where you gain increased reload speed and handling when 2 or more enemies are close by. This shotgun is good, but it's reasonable, very reasonable. It's not a Fellwinter style shotgun with insane impact, which makes them actually, require strategy to use effectively instead of just running around doing whatever you want. We all know that shotguns need to be taken down a peg, and if this is the worst we saw of the Taken King with regards to shotguns, well, I would be just fine with that. The fusion rifle is the Thyssen FR4 from Omalon. This is an incredibly slow firing fusion rifle, making it not super great for PvP, but pretty good for PvE. I feel like the shots from this fusion rifle are more noticeable when actually fired, at least compared to something right now. I don't know, it just felt different. Yeah, there was nothing too special about this fusion rifle in general. Fusion rifles are all kind of generic with regards to their performance. It's tough for a fusion rifle to really stick out from other fusion rifles. The sniper rifle is also in a similar spot, stat-wise, the Arene RR4. It is an LDR style sniper, low rate of fire, high impact sniper, and handles very similarly to what is in the game right now. The sidearm is where things get a little different compared to right now. This is supposedly the future Iron Banner sidearm, Iron Wreath, and it comes with a silencer on it, not that it does much besides how the weapon sounds. It might have a hidden benefit, I don't know, I just didn't get to play with it enough to test it out. The stats were pretty similar to sidearms now, but this thing, much like the hand cannon, kicks up really hard but is otherwise pretty good. It feels like more shots are connecting. Each shot has some impact to it versus the Dynasty, which is just kind of sprayed willy-nilly and doesn't really have any oomph. This thing has oomph to it. Finally, the heavy weapons, we have the Objection 4 from New Monarchy and the Cetus JLB42. The Objection 4 is one of those super high impact, low rate of fire machine guns, but it's not too different from some of the stuff in the game right now. The Cetus JLB falls under the same category. It's pretty standard as far as rocket launchers go. The one big thing I wanted to go over though was the look of these weapons. They look amazing, just plain and simple. Bungie is getting into that futury-like look that people might have been looking for with their weapons, but without being absolutely ridiculous or over the top. Each of the manufacturers seems to be significantly more relevant now, and they are all easily distinguishable from each other. We have Cetus with the reds and the whites, but their main design look and their branding are these rounded edges over the tops of their weapons. The rocket has the rounded top with the red dragon painted across the tube, but mainly white. The pulse rifle has that rounded top, a lot of white with the red stripe. We saw that with the Cetus regime, which has that rounded top on the weapon. You see one of those paint jobs, or you see the looks of one of those weapons, you know it's a Cetus. We have Omalon next, which, while I think it was in the lore, we didn't really see it in-game. Omalon features these matte black looking weapons with deep blue highlights, going for much more of a future look. They also have very distinguishable barrels on their weapons. The scout rifle and the sniper rifle, for example, have these barrels with several other bars going around the barrel for balance, but are also very visually appealing, giving that future style look, almost like it's a laser cannon or something. The fusion rifle gets away from that old look of fusion rifles where you could see the core of it charging up and goes for a much sleeker looking weapon, but is still very recognizable as an Omalon product. Even the hand cannon, while it still has the revolver chamber, is much more compact and goes for more of a pistol look. Then you have Heck, or Hecky, or whatever, which is this kind of more military style looking weapon, sort of combining old school with new school in the same look. Light brown is the major color with some orange stripes and the main logo being white. The Zaranea, the auto rifle, looks modern yet old school all at once depending on how you want to look at it, and even comes with the option for iron sights. The shotgun is very similar in vein. I love this about the new weapons. They have identity, which is weird because most of the weapons in-game now do have an identity as, Crucible weapons, Dead Orbit weapons, but they all use the same weapon model, so it never felt like they had their own identity. It just felt like a different paint job. These new weapons, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, they're not just some base model of a weapon with a couple of features changed around. That's what's in the game now. The scout rifle model is the same for most of the scout rifles. Auto rifles, same thing. Now, there are these brands within the game, and instead of all being the same model, they follow their own brand and design and color scheme to make them all really unique from each other. And I hope we see more of it, because I think they did an insanely good job with these weapons. Let's move on. That big old light 34 stat on the weapon, you're probably wondering about that number. Well, so am I. Bungie did not really go into the specifics of these new, what appear to be light numbers and stats at all, I assume mainly because it's still being tweaked and tuned and stuff like that. Anything you might have seen level-wise in trailers or whatever is also not final whatsoever. I saw a lot of people freaking out that, oh my god, level 50 is going to be a thing. It is absolutely not confirmed that level 50 is going to be a thing. Level 30 will likely be the new base level cap, like how it's 20 right now. That's the level that the game is seemingly going to show now. For example, in all of these PvP clips, you can see that everyone is represented at level 20, not level 34. They seem to be turning light into more of a stat as opposed to a representation of your level. And hopefully they can smooth the staircase-like graph of light level increasing your power level, because right now, there's no difference between light level 33.1 and 33.9. The jumps in power are just too much, so perhaps this is Bungie's way of smoothing power gains via light. We do see a massive stat crunch as well with regards to the armor. The armor stats are dramatically reduced compared to their current legendary counterparts. This Titan helm is 19 int and 20 discipline, for example. In-game right now, those numbers are in the 60s for a dual stat roll item. I unfortunately didn't get to look at how much of each of the stats gave me with regards to percent effectiveness, but we can pretty safely assume that they dropped the stat cap in the Taken King to accommodate that stat crunch. Well, how about some armor bonuses? Well, we have a lot that are similar to right now, but then we have some new things as well. Just for the record, yes, a lot of these bonuses are just placeholder text, you'll see what I mean. Bonus super energy from heavy kills is on this helm, that's definitely new. We have something very interesting here. Arc burn is 2x instead of 3x, and armor +1 for arc builds. I believe you had to pick one or the other for those two bonuses. Finally, we have something like agility +3 for 5 seconds after an arc double kill. So it seems like they're trying to get some bonuses on gear now that appeal to a certain subclass. I think that might overload my inventory a bit, but these bonuses were still in placeholder form, so we need a little bit more clarity on stuff before casting any judgment. The arc burn bonus is very interesting as well, reducing the threat of damage, but possibly reducing your damage as well. Finally, class items are getting a bit of a buff. They now have stats and bonuses on them. For example, here's a Warlock Bond with some bonuses on it. I've also seen class items that give experience bonuses to certain weapon classes, increased reputation gains, so it's cool to see that they're going to be used for more than just repping your faction. Now there's a couple minor things here and there that I didn't get to discuss because I had a very limited amount of time with the game, but I was just very recently on a Planet Destiny podcast where we talked about E3, and I highly suggest giving that a listen if you get the chance. I talked with Holtzman, Miss 5000 Watts, and Pope Bear all about our time at E3. It's a much more laid-back environment, and I thought it was one of the better podcasts that I've done, so yeah, very highly suggested. That is going to do it for me, though, on the weapons of the Taken King thus far. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.